teach part-time in further education alongside your engineering career. I am Jelena Gacisha, and I'm the Education and Outreach Safeguarding Lead at the Institution of Mechanical Engineers. For those of you that don't know me, I've been at the IMechE for about 5 years now, and I'm the corporate focus for all of our partnerships, our education programs, and our initiatives. So basically, your point of call for anything education related, and I'll put my email address in the chat later so you can contact me. I'm sorry, I'm also admitting everyone in as I'm talking. Today we will be hearing from Catherine, who is from the Department for Education, and I will pass on to her in a moment for her to introduce herself. She'll provide a bit of insight into the programme, how you can get involved, and what support they offer. And we will also be hearing from Rosa, who is a mechanical, manufacturing and aeronautical engineer, and she can provide that personal perspective and share her journey as a further education teacher. So just to let you know, and to repeat, the session will be recorded. We will have a Q&A session at the end. So please do ask any questions, type them in the chat, and we will get to them. Make best use of this session. We really want you to engage. We want you to ask any questions you may have and get involved in this. So without further ado, I will pass on to Catherine.
Thank you very much. Hello, good afternoon. I'm Catherine Barlow. I work in the Teacher in Further Education team within the Department for Education. So what that means is the team that I work within are responsible for the recruitment campaign. We work closely with colleges to understand recruitment initiatives that they are leading on, and we develop the policy for teacher recruitment. So today I'm here to talk to you a little bit about what further education actually is. It's perhaps an area of education that you're slightly less familiar with, and also to talk about the skills that are needed for being a teacher, and hopefully you will realise that a lot of them you already have a lot of transferable skills, and also to show you the support that is available to you if you did decide to take a step into teaching in further education. So what is further education? It is education that is for people that are age 16 or over, who are not studying for a degree. So engineering is included within the subjects that are offered at further education level, and I'm sure Rosa will talk more about the experiences that you might have as a FE teacher in engineering. The providers are autonomous, so that means that each individual provider has their own curriculum and their own recruitment practices, which is why it's really important to reach out to your local colleges if you did decide to take that step, so that you can understand what they would require from you. It's not just colleges that are FE providers. There are other workplaces, including prisons, where FE provision is a feature. And wherever you are, the skills that you have and the experience that you have from working in industry are the things that can make a real difference to people's lives. It's not your typical whiteboard desks and chairs setup. Some classes can be, but there's also a real practical element. So if we just play this clip, this is the most recent Share Your Skills campaign advert, but it just brings to life the different types of areas that you might be teaching in within an FE college. Okay, so reasons to consider a career in teaching. There are lots of different contracts available, so full-time, part-time, flexible, and that means that you can teach part-time alongside your current role, or you can transition to full-time work. Um, you you can decide that alongside your teaching provider as to how you might work. You don't always need a prior teaching qualification for further education. A lot of teachers who teach in FE started without having any formal qualifications. So for some courses, it's not expected for you to have degrees or formal teacher qualification. That industry experience is really, really valued. The individual providers do decide their entry requirements, which again is why it's worth looking at them. And a lot offer support so that you can gain a qualification alongside teaching once you start. So the advantages of this are that you might have a lighter teaching timetable so that you have the time and space to study for your teaching qualification. And it also, of course, means that you can start earning straight away as you're working at the same time as qualifying. There are so many different courses within FE, it's really wide ranging. So your skills can hopefully match one of those roles, and the background that you have is of immense value. And of course, teaching is such a rewarding career. I was previously a teacher myself in the secondary sector, and you're doing a really positive thing by passing on your knowledge and skills to the next generation. There are, of course, other benefits, that there is support available for you joining. Engineering actually has a £30,000 bursary attached to it, which, again, you'd need to talk to your providers about, but the bursaries are available for those that are training to teach. FE providers are employers, so they can offer a range of additional benefits such as childcare vouchers, cycle to work schemes, discount gym memberships, and pension schemes. It's a competitive salary with a range of between £24,000 and £40,000, and lots of opportunities to progress, both within your organisation and between different providers as your career progresses. To give you examples, there may be progression to head of subject or head of department, or wider strategic management positions such as senior leadership team. When you take up a role, you receive support from your employer, and that will enable you to develop your skills and knowledge and grow as a teacher year on year. And of course, the students help you to do that too. You'll come across a wide range. There are teacher training courses on offer, and they're great opportunities to strengthen your knowledge and skills and to build your confidence. So this is a really short clip, but this is an FE plumbing lecturer who is talking about how people can use the skills that they already have to be a teacher.
It's not playing for me. Did you click it?
Is that the same for everybody? Okay. I did click it, and it's clearly not playing.
It is now.
Ah. Okay. So, if you're interested, ask yourself, could you teach in further education? First question, how much experience do you have in your current industry? The industry experience is absolutely invaluable, and as we've seen, there are a lot of practical lessons within the FE environment. There's no set rule on how many years of experience you have. If you've been in a role for a few years, then you have what it takes to teach. If you're new to your industry, that doesn't mean that you couldn't be a great further education teacher, as you may have the transferable skills that we require. You can always speak to your provider to find out exactly what they're looking for. Second question, do you like to share the knowledge that you have picked up during your career? So you as engineers, you have that knowledge that you can impart in a classroom environment on a regular basis, and you would see learners benefit from your knowledge in real time. If you are somebody who is worried that if you become an FE teacher, you have to give up your industry job, that is not true. So industry professionals can continue their current jobs part-time alongside FE teaching, and this is known as dual professionalism. And you also have the opportunity to become a full-time FE teacher if you choose to. Variety, if you are looking for variety, then FE teaching is absolutely for you. So one day you might be delivering a lecture, the next you could be planning your lessons and marking assignments. You might be taking students on field trips to really see engineering in action, or leading practical sessions in a workshop. There are no limits there. If you're looking to boost your career prospects, the skills and qualifications that you pick up as an FE teacher are multiple, not only the teaching side of things, but your interpersonal skills, the way that you adapt lessons for different styles of learners. And they can enable you to progress in your current profession as much as in your teaching profession. And then finally, if you are considering age, so what age would be best to get into further education, you can become a further education teacher at any point in your life. So there are lots of people that get into teaching towards retirement age, and there are some that get in straight after education. You're teaching a variety of learners who have a variety of characteristics. Teachers with a variety of characteristics are exactly what those learners need. So in terms of starting, the first place to look is on your local college or training provider's website or on their social media. So that is where you'll find the latest vacancies. It's also where you'll find information about the courses that that provider offers. You can also look on job boards. So Indeed is a good site, Total Jobs, FE jobs, there are plenty. For more FE specific jobs, you can find those, thanks Fiona, on the Association of College job sites, and we actually have a website which Elena has very kindly just posted in the chat, and I'll talk to you about in a minute, where we have a lot of this information. You have a choice. You can train in your own time or you can train on the job. So depending on the provider's available support, they will either allow you to train on the job alongside your work, or they may request that you complete a qualification in your own time before starting the role. So that's why it's really important to reach out to providers and understand what their expectations are. There's benefits to both. If you're training on the job, you can start your career sooner. And there may be a suitable job right now in a local college, and there's financial support for that. If you're training in your own time, you're not tied to one specific provider once you've qualified. You can get a taste of FE before you commit to it, and you may receive the financial bursary as well. So there are different teaching qualifications that you may be expected to have, and the provider would be able to give you information on that. So the type of qualifications that there are diplomas in education, a training certificate, a PGCE, which is a postgraduate certificate in education, Again, entry requirements do vary between qualifications and providers. And as a general rule, we say if you have the following, you should be able to do a teaching qualification. So have achieved level 2 skills in English or maths, have an A-level qualification in the subject that you wish to train to teach. Some training providers might ask for a demonstration of suitable literacy and numeracy and IT skills. And you may need some, you must meet some non-academic requirements such as a DBS check, so disclosure and barring service, and declaration of any criminal convictions. Again, if you're unsure if you have the relevant existing qualifications, don't be put off. Every provider is different, and that's why it's so valuable to contact them. So finally, in terms of the support available to you, we have the Teaching Further Education website, and the link to that is in the chat. That has a directory of providers on it, so you can pop your postcode in and it will come up with the 5 most local colleges to you, so that could be a good starting point, and take a look at their websites. If you'd actually like to speak to somebody, we have a support service, and they are dedicated agents who will be able to answer even the most bespoke of questions. So you can email or call them on the numbers that are on these slides, and you can find that within our website as well. If it's something that you're pondering, we also have a newsletter, so you can sign up to that, and it will give you quick summaries of different articles, different inspiration. Each theme is different, so signing up soon will help you to see lots of different variety. These are all things that are there for you, so do take advantage of them, and feel free to reach out. And that is it from me.
Thank you, Catherine. That was very comprehensive, and thank you so much for taking us through the slides. Now I see, and I'm really pleased to see lots of questions. So I don't know whether you wanted to cover a few of them that I think are applicable to you, and I think you covered some of them, but it might be worth to really spell it out and go through a few of them before we move on to Rosa. Is that okay?
Yes, certainly. Cool. Rosa, I might actually call on you to help me with a couple of these as well.
Sure, either of you, please jump in. So I think the first one, if you're happy to do that, Rosa, is from Richard, and he wants to know how many hours are basically allocated to marking, prep, how much you teach roughly per week, and I suppose how much of that is done at home and in the classroom.
Yeah, so this does vary, as Catherine has said. Every institution is slightly different, but on average, for an experienced teacher, it's normally a maximum of about 24 hours a week, and that takes into account, as I said, experience, how much of how many new courses you're offering. So it will vary. If you're doing teacher training, it will be slightly reduced. So if you're doing a full-time contract, 37-hour working week, 24 hours is teaching, and the rest is all of the other things that you need to do around prep, marking, and working with the students to support them.
Perfect. Thanks so much. We move on to Kevin's question. I think you already said, Catherine, what's a typical rate, if you don't mind repeating for anybody that's joined later?
So the scale is 24 to 40,000.
Yeah, and you also said that there's lots of room for progression and moving up. So that's, I suppose, the starting
and
rate.
Again, also that providers have their own pay scales, so this will vary provider to provider.
Cool. Okay, Richard has another question about hybrid teaching. Is any of the teaching done remotely?
So shall I take that one?
Please, Rosa.
For the majority of what we do is face-to-face, especially for our 16 to 18-year-olds. But that doesn't mean there isn't opportunity for hybrid. So sometimes our apprenticeship teaching, depending on where the apprentices are, there might be some hybrid there. And the nature of further education is sometimes we're teaching things like HNCs, which for adult learners. So it will vary, and it's really just down to which cohorts you've got and what works for them. But most of the teaching is face-to-face.
Okay. And does any of it take place on the weekend?
It could, it's unlikely, but I have done it have before offered evening hours to people that are interested. So I've got an example of where we had some apprentices that needed to learn some very specific CNC machining, and somebody came forward and said he'd love to teach them one evening a week, and we fitted that in around his availability. So that evening I think is more likely than weekends, but absolutely reach out to your local provider, and I'm sure they'd be interested to hear what you've got to offer.
Okay. A few more, and then we will move on to Rosa and your own experience and sort of go into that with a little bit more detail, and hopefully that will lead to further questions. Are you expected to provide pastoral support?
It's the same answer. It varies. So in some areas we have specialist pastoral support, and this does happen quite a lot in engineering actually, because we really want to focus engineers on delivering their technical skills. But it does absolutely vary. In my current institution, we have specialist pastoral tutors, and the engineering lecturers don't do pastoral support. But in other institutions, they may well ask you to do that as part of your weekly teaching.
Okay, perfect. This is quite a detailed one. How would you compare the discipline between further education and secondary school? I don't know if you can compare. Do you have experience?
I don't have experience of secondary. I have family that are secondary teachers. I certainly myself have never had issues with discipline in my classrooms. We know that those 16, 17-year-olds, you've got to set really clear expectations and really make sure they understand appropriate behaviour in a classroom. There is extensive support within providers if there are issues with behaviour, whereby you'll get support, whether that's from pastoral or support services, to see what else they might need, making sure they've got the right learning support, whether they've got any mental health issues. Though there's a lot of support available to help those learners. You do have to work with them and ensure they understand what your expectations are. I think it is hard to compare with secondary, and it varies. So yes, you'll have groups of 16, 17-year-olds, but I teach from 16 to 65. We've got a lot of adult teaching as well, so it varies, and according to where you sort of best fit in as well.
But from what I'm hearing, you do have support that is provided by this, by the college.
Yeah. So quite, I guess, probably a bigger infrastructure particularly in an FE college, in terms of student support to support lecturers as well.
That type of thing. Yeah. Okay.
And this, sorry, slightly jumping the gun, but Rosa, class sizes, Richard's asked the question, but when doing a comparison between FE and secondary, the thing that came into my head was you're in a smaller group of students. Is that
it tends
accurate?
So schools are around 30. For theory teaching in engineering, it can be about 20, 24. For workshops, it's more like 15, with support from technicians as well to help with practicals.
Okay, I think you've answered something about the bursary.
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything? So the question is the 30k bursary that you mentioned, whether that's available for part-time teachers and when.
Yep. So the bursaries are available each year. The 30k rise for engineering is for the academic year 24-25, so that's coming in September. But they are again provider by provider, so you would have to do the digging as to whether your provider can let you know you're eligible. The link that I've put is to the site that gives you more information about that. So.
Okay, perfect. I see we've got more questions, but I suggest now that we move on to Rosa's story, and please do keep the questions coming, and we will come back to those if that's okay. So Rosa, thank you so much for being with us and coming to share your experience. Can you please, as a starting point, tell us how you got into this? What made you want to become a further education teacher?
Yeah, so I started out in aerospace manufacturing in Birmingham. So at 18, I started out in engineering and really enjoyed it, really well supported by my employer. They helped me through my studies to get a degree. So I really enjoyed being able to do that work and to study at the same time. But I think probably as I came through that process and stopped my studies, I really missed them. I missed that academic challenge. And whilst I was enjoying work, I felt something was missing. So I thought I'd reach out to some FE colleges. I didn't really understand, as Catherine said, it is a slightly more complicated space. I wasn't sure how it worked, but they were, when I spoke to a college, they were really interested in what I could offer. So I decided at that point to go full-time into further education teaching. But I've been teaching now since 2005, and I've had a mix of roles, some full-time, some part-time, and I've been able to do different things along the way.
Okay, cool. And tell me, how did that transition from industry to full-time further education teaching come about?
So I looked at vacancies initially and applied, and I was a little bit apprehensive. I wasn't quite sure if I was the right person. But they were really pleased with my interview and offered me a full-time job with teacher training alongside. So I hadn't done any teacher training beforehand. So I started my first year with support from the college and doing my teacher training alongside teaching. And in that first year, I was teaching some 16, 17-year-olds, and I was teaching some HNC adults as well and apprentices. So it was a really nice mix of different types of learners at different levels.
And just for clarity, for anyone who doesn't know what HNC stands for.
So that's a Higher National Certificate, and it's equivalent to the first year of a university degree, often used by those working in engineering who maybe haven't got formal qualifications and are looking for progression in work.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And tell me, how did your experience from industry and other jobs help you to deliver the teaching?
Yes, I think manufacturing is brilliant to sort of get you making sure you evaluate things. So I guess having gone through my studies and also having that experience in manufacturing, I was able to use some of that for my delivery. So I was teaching some of the quality improvement principles that I'd been implementing in manufacturing, but equally that continuous improvement approach that you have in engineering, it works really well with education, because you're continually evaluating what's working, what do you need to improve, and measuring your performance. It's innate in engineers, so that works really well when you're in education as well.
Those are those excellent cross-transferable skills that we're looking for. Yeah, perfect. And tell me, how is teaching impacted on your personal life, managing responsibilities? Is it tricky? How does it work for you?
I've found it really useful to be able to adapt what I'm doing with my teaching to fit in around everything else that I do. So I've travelled around quite a lot with family. I've got children, and I've been able to do things part-time. When we've moved, I've been able to ring the local college and say, look, this is my experience, have you got anything for me? And then they always do have something that I can contribute to. So I've never had an issue finding interesting jobs wherever I've lived, and I've had the opportunity to fit things in around my other commitments. Really, my employers have always been really understanding in terms of knowing what I can bring to a role. And I've taught and also sort of managed curriculum, and really important, I try and bring that into my teams as well. So, thinking about fitting teaching hours in around maybe school hours or other commitments. We also have some term time only contracts in some institutions. So I've benefited from that to be able to support my family as well as develop myself. I've also progressed into more senior roles and had the opportunity in one instance to pick up a director role in a company, and because I was enjoying the teaching so much, I was able to keep doing the teaching. I was supporting apprentices with some industry projects, so I was able to balance both with the support of each employer, so they were really supportive of that.
Impressive multitasking as well. And it's great to hear that you can fit this around not only your family life but other things going on. So that's definitely something that hopefully is attractive to people on this call. Tell me, how would you leverage your industry skills and experience in your teaching?
It's absolutely essential, because we need to be really authentic with the learners. They are coming from school, and most school teachers may not have done anything other than teach in schools, and obviously do brilliant things with young people. But when those young people or adults come to us in further education, we've got to really understand the workplaces that they're going into. So it's really important we pull that in. So I've taught all sorts of things. So my degree was in aerospace engineering. So I've taught, thermodynamics and aerodynamics, and some quite technical things. But equally, I've taught, business management techniques and finance, quality improvement. So a real variety and diversity of things. And there's loads more out there as well. So we've got brilliant computer-aided design teachers, teachers that teach hydraulics and pneumatics, programming. There's so many different things that we need to make sure that when our students leave us, they've got a really well-rounded development of what engineering companies are looking for.
Yeah, so many different opportunities you just listed there. So definitely something for anybody that's interested. And finally, I suppose before we go on to, I'm glad to see a few more questions have come in. We'll cover those. What would you say to anyone that's considering getting involved and considering a career in teaching further education?
I would really recommend that you have a chat with your local provider and speak to them and see what you can offer. As Catherine said, it's incredibly rewarding to see those students go on and achieve so much, and to show that you see the difference that you're making to those lives. And that really is everybody from those coming in at 16, not sure what they want to do or even what engineering is, through to sort of mature learners who are looking for a second chance. And you just see huge developments in everybody that's studying with you, and to see that impact and what they go on to achieve is really rewarding.
Yeah, definitely. And I think from your personal story, it's helped you to develop your own skill set, your own career, bolster your income, manage your life. So yeah, it's really worked for you. And
Yeah.
a great example. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Now, if you wouldn't mind, we'll cover a few more of the questions that have come in. If anybody has anything they want to ask, if they've missed anything at the beginning, please do take the opportunity to ask us now. So I think we have Eduardo's question, which is, what key differences would you say there are in teaching higher education?
So I can answer that one. So where I am now is both a university and an FE college. So I do have experience of teaching both. But I would say HE teaching is not one thing. So in our university, we probably have smaller groups. We're very vocationally led university. So sometimes in higher education, you're teaching in big lecture theatres, very big groups, maybe even 100, 120. And so you don't always get to know the learners. Again, that does vary by institution to institution. So there's probably a bit more variety in FE, so you can get into different things. You specialise a bit more in higher education teaching. It's really hard to say this is what HE teaching is and this is what FE teaching is, because there's also an overlap in some of the levels. So I think it's really about talking to your local providers and seeing where you best fit in. How do you see yourself fitting in with that provider or that university?
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that really is an option that can suit everybody. You might have to do a little bit of investigation, speak to the different colleges, but you're likely to find something that can work for you.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether Catherine or Rosa, this is for you, but either of you, please could you repeat the requirements? This is John's question for teaching at FE. He was looking at university lecturing, and there doesn't seem to be a prerequisite. Or is there a prerequisite, I think he's asking.
The classic mute button there. Rosa, shall I take that one? So the entry requirements do vary. So between qualifications, providers, there is no prerequisite, as similarly to HE in that respect. To give you an idea, though, your industry skills are really invaluable and very much something that colleges will value. If you have a level 2, so that's GCSE in English and maths, an A-level qualification in the subject that you want to train to teach in, and a DBS, so going through a disclosure and barring service check and declaration of criminal convictions. Those are sort of the 3 key things for teaching, being able to be on a teaching qualification course. But as we said, it does vary provider to provider. So
yeah, so just to add in there, Catherine, we do look at what industry experience people have, and if, for example, they haven't got a Maths or English GCSE, we will support them as colleges to gain that, if we think the industry experience is going to really add value, and then we can progress them onto a teacher training qualification.
Okay, thank you. We have a question from Kevin. From your experience, what would convince an engineer to switch careers into teaching? And he says that perhaps the salary is not as competitive. So I don't know whether we're looking to ask people to switch. There are a number of options where engineers can teach part-time, but I don't know if either of you would like to come in with a response for anything else.
Yeah, I think it's looking at what works and that mix, and looking at really what you're trying to get out of it, and where you currently are in your career. I know I recently spoke to somebody from a digital background who was in a sort of global role, a lot of traveling, and he just decided, you know, he wanted a different pace of life, and he tried teaching part-time and loved it. So I think it's more around what you're looking to get out of it and how it fits in with your sort of everything that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I think that you also mentioned that we have a lot of people that are interested either at the beginning of their careers when they've just come out of education, or when they're looking to perhaps slow down and closer to retirement. So I think it is an option of different needs, different requirements, different personal stories. Okay, I think we've covered Jamal. There's a link up there. I'll share it again, and you can search on the website to find your local provider, and that's your best starting point to find out what options are and what's available close to you. If we move on to Daniel's question, he says he has a HND and a degree. Would he need to have A-levels as well?
No, so I think, sorry, Catherine, I think Catherine was talking about A-level equivalent, so levels. So we look at all qualifications, BTEC, City and Guilds, IMI, whatever it is you've got, we'll look at that and how that fits in with what we offer. So we're all about inclusion and diversity, so we're absolutely committed to that. So we always want to hear what people have got and then see how they fit into what we're offering.
Perfect. Thank you. Anybody else have any other questions? We have a few minutes left if you wanted to ask anything further or make any comments. I will also put my email address in the chat if nothing comes to you now, but you have a question thereafter. As I said, we're going to share the recording if you want to revisit any of the information or you want to pass it on to somebody who might find it interesting, please do so. Yeah, anything else from anybody else? Okay. I have put in my email address, and if there are no further questions, I'd like to thank you all for taking time out today to join us to find out more. Talk about max age. I don't think there is.
No,
Rosa?
there isn't.
No, not a maximum age for teachers or students.
Yes.
No.
So we're welcoming everybody. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank everybody for joining, and to our presenters, thanks so much. And Rosa, thank you so much for sharing your personal experience and yeah, the detailed background. Okay, thanks everybody, and see you next time. Have a good afternoon. Take care.
Thank you.